எல்லாம் பண்ணுவேன். நீ போடுற நானும் போறேன்.
ஓகே, ஓகே. ஆ நான் ஹோஸ்ட் பண்ணிக்கலாம்ல எல்லாமே. ஓகே, ஓகே. ஓகே, ஓகே.
ஸ்கூட்டில விண்ட்ஷீல்ட் பேக் சீட் இருக்கு அதுக்குள்ள இது போட முடியுங்களா? எனக்கு
அடிக்கிறது தெரியுது. இது நீட்டோட போகுது.
matter what images which we show.
யாருக்கு பேசுறது இப்ப
Vinu, kindly switch off the camera.
HB அதில்
வாட்ஸ்அப் பட்டன் இருக்கு.
நானு எடுத்துட்டு போனேன் அங்க. சரி விளாடலான்ட்டு இது
Participant God and E. Kalyanam, kindly turn off your video. Kalyanam, sir, please turn off your video. Thank you.
நம்ம பேசுறோம். You hear me?
அங்கீகரித்தால் எங்களுக்கும் நல்லது. ஆண்களை மேனுஃபேக்சரிங் அவர்கள் தான் மேனுஃபேக்சரர்.
Hello, Kaushik.
Sir, கேக்குது.
Okay, shall we start?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, good morning to all. Let me introduce myself. I am Dr. K. Srinivasan, heading the on behalf of Sri Ramakrishna Engineering College and the Department of Electronics and Instrumentation Engineering and Robotics and Automation Engineering. I welcome 5 days webinar series on sensors and automation, which is organized by both the departments. I would like to welcome today's resource person, Deepthi Rajkumar, software engineer, Ford, Poland, Germany. And I thank Dr. A. Murugarajan, Professor and Head, Department of Robotics and Automation, in helping hands in organizing this 5-day seminar on sensors and automation. And I thank Ms. Deepthi Rajkumar for accepting our invitation to act as a resource person for this wonderful webinar series. Our resource person, Ms. Deepthi Rajkumar, she has completed Bachelor of Engineering in Electronics and Instrumentation Engineering, Sri Ramakrishna Engineering College, Coimbatore, during the year 2015. She has completed a Master of English Engineering in TH Cologne, specialized in automation and IT during the year 2018. Presently, she is working as software engineer, EV charging in Ford, Cologne, Germany. Welcome, Ms. Deepthi Rajkumar. Now the session is handed over to Deepthi Rajkumar. Deepthi Rajkumar, you can start.
So, thank you, sir. Thank you for the warm welcome. It's a great pleasure to join the session today and share all my knowledge to the audience here. So, let me get started. I hope you are now able to see my screen. Since it's a webinar session, that would be great that I get an acknowledged yes, no on certain things. Thank you for that. So let's maybe get started with a short introduction to myself. Okay. Yeah. So as actually introduced me, I'm Deepthi Rajkumar, software engineer, currently working for electrical vehicle in the charging department. And yeah, I did my bachelor's from SRC.
Sir,
Sir, there is actually an echo. someone, yeah, thank you. So I'm a student like from 2015 passed out, and yeah, I then continued to do my master's in automation and IT from Technical Hochschule Köln in Germany. And then yeah, I started working with Ford in the Department of Electrical Vehicle Charging from during the like end of 2018. So it's more like 1.5 years I'm working for Ford now. So that's a very short introduction about myself, and here I have given you my email ID if in case you have any questions, or students who are actually willing to come to Germany can try to contact me. I will be here to help you all. So let's get started for our today's topic, that is data science and automation. So today's agenda for this seminar would be like, first I'll give you an introduction to data science. So here you would expect most of your answers for all your WH questions, like what is data science, from where has it come from, and why it is significant to use data science and how could you use it. So all your basic questions would be answered here. And then I'll give you a surface level introduction on the timeline, like actually how data science evolved and what it is stands for today. And also I will give you some of the basic introduction on the terminologies, because that would be most effective that we would be seeing in our second section, that's in the data science process. It helps you to understand it more clearly. And then I walk you through the application of data science, actually talking about where, in which sector majorly data science is being used. And we will discuss about one of the applications here, and I will describe you neatly like how data science is being used in this. And finally, I'll talk about the challenges actually faced in the real world, like when we really work with the data, what are the challenges that we face in the organizations. So these would be the four main topics that I'll be covering in the session today. So from the audience, does anyone know about data science? Have you heard of the term data science? Does anyone have an idea about it? Yes, no, yeah, Mohammed Uwais.
It's about gathering the data, using it for
Yeah.
தமிழ் பேசலாம்.
Sure, தமிழ்ல பேசுங்க.
அதான் டேட்டாஸ்ல கேதர் பண்ணி நமக்கு என்னென்ன வேணுமோ அதுக்காக யூஸ் பண்ணிக்கலாம் அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி டேட்டா சயின்ஸ் யூஸ் பண்றாங்க.
ஓகே, பார்ஷியலி கரெக்ட். எஸ், டேட்டாஸை கேதர் பண்ணி நம்ம என்ன அவுட்கம் வேணும் அப்படிங்கிறத யூஸ் பண்ணுறது பார்ஷியலி இட் இஸ் கரெக்ட். ஸோ I will just start with an example. So in our day-to-day life, we are using YouTube, right? So every one of us here is familiar about YouTube and we are using YouTube. Here you would have seen about the recommendation videos, like that's been listed. So how do you even think that these recommendation videos are there for you? Anyone?
Okay, based on like whatever we are giving as an input, they will collect those inputs, and out of it, it will identify what is related for us.
Exactly, that's the basic behind like how this process works. So like it first collects the data from us, like it tries to collect all the videos that we have watched previously and categorize them according to the genres, like we would have watched it like in action, or we would have watched it with drama, like thriller, crime. So it basically categorizes like according to the genre, and then it processes it and identifies the pattern of our interest, and then it recommends the video for us. So based on our input, it basically provides us the output that we are looking for. So when I just told you about this small things about collecting the data and then pre-processing it and then designing a pattern, when I talk about all these things, here is where like different field of studies pops in. When I mentioned about collecting the data and pre-processing it, basically knowledge of from computer science, because let's say like there would be like huge amount of data flowing in, and like you have to store the data. So like we have to think about like it's possible to use some database, or should we even go for cloud computing since there are huge amount of data flowing in. So it's basically a field of computer science, and when we wanted to analyze these data, we also use some mathematical or statistical analysis there. So then comes the mathematical and statistical field inside. Of course, a domain knowledge is also very much required in this field, like in whichever domain we are looking for. So all these three put together is what data science would be. So it's basically an interdisciplinary field of study, which helps you to extract the data and derive some insights from these data. So why is it significant to use these data science? Like, why is it really important for us? Talking from business perspective, like it helps you to turn any business problem and find some practical solutions. So data science actually lies in between like a research, basically like where you try to develop an algorithm, test the algorithm if it really um, like fits for your outcome, like you're able to derive your desired outcome. So it turns a business problem into a practical solution, and also it provides more insights from these vast data. How can you do that? Like, how is it possible for you to do that? So this is like with various scientific methods and machine learning algorithms, like say random forest or decision trees. So these are some of the basics, but I'm not deep diving into these technicals right now. But yeah, these machine learning algorithms are actually used. What is the outcome that you could expect here? So since we are always dealing with data are the real source. It's more like an oil right now for our core outcome you're looking for. So we could have a better reliable decision making, and also helps you to discover some hidden patterns. Basically, like when we come up with the data things, like you can always see that certain things that are already seen in the data that you wouldn't have expected at all. So helps you to discover some hidden patterns. Let's see like from where this data science actually started from. So I have like here categorized into 4 sections, like starting from statistics to computer age, data mining, and then what is today. So here, like when we talk about statistics, it actually date back to the 8th or the 9th centuries, where the Arab mathematicians started with permutations and combinations. But where it actually started, an underlying base for data science was during the period from like 1763 to 1805. So this is where like the Bayes theorem and regressions, these all came up. And slowly then we moved into the computer age, which is like from 1943 to 1975. Yeah, 1943 to 1975, where neural networks, evolutionary computations, databases, and genetic algorithms, they all came into the picture. Actually, when I mentioned earlier that it's a combination of different study, you could already see that the statistics and the computer age together had given data science in the year of 2001. Like this is what, like when it started from 1918 to 2003. So it came up like with support vector missions and data science popped in. And now what we deal with is all is the big data. So it's all about the right, I just mentioned about the YouTube example. So here you can imagine like there will be a lot of users coming in. So a lot of data is being collected, and processing this data is like all the challenges that we are facing in today's world. So let's get started with some basic terminologies. So here I've just put in some basic terminologies that we will be required in order to go with our next data science process. So there are like two types of data. I think one of us must be aware of this, like structured data and unstructured data. So talking about structured data, so any data that is put in the form of a row and column, in like with numbers and strings, they are basically the structured data. And unstructured data is like any data that is in the form of a file, like an image file or video file is a unstructured data. So coming to the learning techniques, like there are three major learning techniques that are basically involved, which is like supervised, unsupervised learning, and semi-supervised learning. So the supervised learning, what is actually a supervised learning? Let's just take an example. Like let's say a teacher who is like trying to get a student to achieve a certain level of performance is supervised learning. Basically, a student is being supervised and the outcome is already known in this phase. This is the supervised learning. And unsupervised learning is just the opposite of it. Like you don't know the outcome. So there is no supervision on the student and there is no outcome. So the student has to learn by itself. This is what is actually an unsupervised learning. And a semi-supervised learning is nothing but it is a mixture of both supervised and unsupervised learning. So for certain things you already know the outcome and for certain things you don't know the outcome. So it is a mixture of both the supervised and the unsupervised learning. Let's next talk about the data science process. So here I'm going to talk about one of the methodology, which is a CRISP-DM methodology. So CRISP-DM stands for Cross Industry Standard Process for Data Mining. This is one of the structural, most reliable, and also the robustic methodology that has been used in the industries today. It's used by most of the industries. So here there are like 6 steps starting from business understanding, going to the data understanding, and then data preparation, modeling, evaluation, and the deployment. Let's get started with data understanding. I would just like to give you some examples here and there. Please raise your hand if you have any questions. So every one of you must be aware of this fraudulence happening with credit cards in the banking sector, right? So like when I talk about this credit card fraudulence, what comes in your mind first? Let's say you are from a business perspective and you wanted to do something, and here we are talking about a credit card fraudulent case. So what's the first thing maybe comes to your mind? Anyone in the audience?
Pin
Okay,
code, ma'am.
okay. Let me break this down for you. So the first step actually that will be involved in business understanding is setting up an objective. So here we need an objective. We have a business problem, basically where it is more like the first thing I can always think about from business perspective is that the customer will lose the trust. So there will be no customers coming back to you to get this credit cards from your company. So basically lose the customers. And the second ones, it will be affecting in your financial plans. So this would be like the straight objectives immediately that we could think about. So first thing always in a business understanding is you have to try to understand the business problem and try to set the right objective. And the next thing would be is to do a project plans. Once you have set up your business objectives straight, then you have to list down all the plans step by step, what is required in order to reach your outcome. And the third will be like to check on the availability of the resources. When I say it's a resources, I talk about like whole of thing, like if you have enough hardware, if you have enough software, if required, hardware if required, enough softwares, human resources in terms of financial terms. So you have to assess all the resources like for the project if it is whatever is being required. And the last step is like to assess the tools and the techniques, because there are like quite a lot of tools available in the market today for data science, like starting from R, like for modeling, Python for modeling, again R for visualization, and also other tools like Tableau for data visualization and exploration. So there are a lot of tools available in the market, and we have to choose the right tool for our problem. So assessment of tools and technique is also one of the important steps that is involved. So the next step would be data understanding. So now you have the objective, like you have a business problem about the fraud detection. Yes, there is something happening and you wanted to have take a control over it. So you are trying to design a model which says like how many predictions had happened and how you can avoid, or like how you can define a model to avoid these predictions. So what is really required here is that you try to collect all the data. This data will be huge, and especially when we are talking in real time, the real time data are really dirty. So you also have to look at the quality of the data, and then you have to make some analysis on the data. So the first step would be like is to collect all the data, try to understand the data, and then explore the data. So put it in the form of a graph for the desired outcome that you're looking for, and then try to analyze it. And in the third step, what we do would be is like you have now a vast data, right? We can't just keep using all the informations from them. Like there would be something like the name of the person, contact details, where he has swiped his card, some transaction details. So there is like the data will have every information in it. Now, in the third step, what is more important is that you select the right data and then clean the data, because I've mentioned in the second step that you verify the quality. So in the real time, the data are dirty, you will have some missing values, you will have some outliers lying here and there which might not fit in your graph. You would be wondering what it is. So in this third step, you have to clean the data. In order to clean the data, you have to really choose the right statistical techniques to clean it, like to treat the missing values, not the outliers. Once this is done, then you start constructing your required data. So while I say you're constructing your required data, here is where you will be looking at like which parameter would be more important for me in order to perform this analysis. So you would start constructing the data yourself. And in the fourth step, this is where modeling pops in. So now that we have our business understanding, we have understood our whole data, we have seen that, okay, this is the right amount of data that I would be required for modeling. And here is where you will start selecting your technique. So there are like a lot of techniques. Like first, when you identify a problem and look into the data, you have to see if it belongs to a classification problem or if it is a regression. And these two actually comes under supervised learning, and you have to think if it problem might be unsupervised or if it is a semi-supervised. So you have to select the right technique which is required for your modeling process. And then when once you select the right technique, the next step for you would be is to generate a test design. So what do you do here is basically you take a sample set of data and you would use your technique to see if the algorithm works fine with the data available. I mean, like with the data, whatever you have collected so far. So here you try to generate a test design and try to assess this model. Once this is being done, then we go for evaluation. So each and every step of like, call it like supervised or unsupervised learning, whatever it is, each and every one of it has its own performance metric. And it is required that you follow this performance metric and see if you have reached the desired outcome. So if you say that no, this hasn't reached the desired outcome, then you go back to step 3, again start with data preparation, do the model and do the evaluation. So it's basically an iterative process, until you reach a certain outcome that you are expecting for. And the last step would be is the deployment. This is where actually you would deploy the whole model to the real world and make some documentations and have some maintenance plans over it. So the process, like from 3 to 5, like you can keep iterating until you see the desired outcome. And the process 1 and 2 is very crucial, and it is really required that you have a clear understanding of the business and the data. And so that you know what, like all the efforts that you had put in so far over a period of time gets you into the right direction. Let's then just focus on the application. So talking about application, data science is being used in almost each and every field today, almost in each and every field. So here I've just mentioned like 4 major field that's using data science. The one is e-commerce. So when I see e-commerce, like I think everyone is aware of Amazon, right? Like, and you can always see the suggestions coming from Amazon based on your previously viewed products. So it basically helps in identifying their customers and recommending the products. And in healthcare, it is used for virtual assistants and also in the drug discovery. And in manufacturing, like it helps in maintenance scheduling and predicting some potential problems, also automating the manufacturing units. And also in transport, it's being used in self-driving cars, enhancing the safety and car monitoring systems. So I would be then going little bit details into the autonomous vehicles now. So autonomous vehicle. When we think about the autonomous vehicle, we consider the idea of a car that can take us from origin to a destination without a human intervention. That sounds interesting, right? So imagine yourself sitting in the car and it just takes you from one origin to the other destination, and there is no need for you to drive the car itself. You have to just be there. So the idea itself sounds interesting. So autonomous vehicle actually uses a large number of sensors to understand its environment, locate, and then to move. Just have a look at the picture here. Here you could see that there is a lidar system and then the radar system, the camera placed on the top, and also the supplemental sensors. Let me just start with the light detection and the ranging system here. So what it is actually used for, the light detection and ranging system? It's actually used for object detection and also the position of the object. So it's more in the purpose of a dynamic, like in a moving car, it helps you to detect the object and its positions. So the lidar uses the infrared sensors to determine the distance to an object. Basically, this rotating system makes it more possible to send the waves and measure the time taken for this wave to come back. So in this way, it can generate about 2 million points per second. So this one sensor can actually generate about 2 million points each second. Imagine how huge it would be, this data, then when you collect from this one particular sensor. Let's go to the next one, the radar system. So radar system is actually the radio detection and ranging, and the radar actually emits the radio waves to detect the objects within a radius of several meters. So there are like radars actually used in our cars in today's world, like in order for to detect this blind spots in order to avoid the collisions. And talking about the supplemental sensor, I've taken like two basic sensors which would be easy for us in the seminar. The one is the ultrasonic sensor, the other one is the odometric sensor. So ultrasonic sensor, what it's used for, it's actually used to determine the position of a static vehicle. And ideally, the best example here would be like for parking. So basically, ultrasonic sensor will help you to detect the position of the while when you wanted to park your car. So that's how it estimates the position of a static vehicle. Odometric sensor, this sensor actually helps you to estimate the speed of your vehicle by studying the displacement of wheels. These odometric sensors are also these ultrasonic sensors and the odometric sensor are actually partially available in all our cars today. Like you would have heard about this parking system and also about the alignment of the wheels. Like I'm not sure, but it's available in Volkswagen and other from the other OEMs as well. So ultrasonic and odometric sensor are like two sensors which are even available right now. So what do you think would be the real challenge actually in like developing this autonomous vehicle? As I said, like the, when we talked about this lidar system, right? So here I said that it generates about 2 million points per second. So that means like it's a lot of data, and still there is like not enough computational powers to process these data generated by the sensors. This is actually the real challenge that would be facing in today's world in the field of like autonomous vehicles. So basically the engineering behind the AV is the deep learning algorithm involved, which actually involves neural network. And I think most of us here are familiar with neural network because it's like a basic one which has a biologically inspired programming paradigm, which enables a computer to learn from the observational data. And in the field of autonomous vehicle, there are like two key technologies, that is that artificial intelligence and deep learning, which is being involved. And I'm here just going to give you an example of car, and I'll be talking about their parking system, like how actually they do it. So here I'll talk about the Q2 Audi. So, and we will just consider one part of like the parking system and how actually the deep learning is like involved. So actually what it does, the first algorithm learns on the computer parking simulation with several million repetitions. So it's an iterative process. It keeps learning by itself from all the data. And then in deep reinforcement, learning positive results are rewarded with high scores and the error values decrease significantly over time. So the main idea is to decrease the error. So with uh, reinforcement learning, the positive results are rewarded and the error values are decreased. So coming like to conclude like about the data science, it is actually a formative stage in the formative stage of development, and it's involving into a self-supporting discipline, and it's also producing professionals with distinct and complementary skills relative in computer science and statistical science. So any questions from the audience?
Hi, Deepthi. This is Yuvraj.
Hi, Uraj. Yeah.
Yes, I have one basic question in this.
Yeah.
Normally, in the autonomous car, what is the technology we use to communicate both the vehicles? Say, for example, if we use same brand cars, let's take example as Ford. Okay, so they use same algorithm, right? So the communication can happen easily. So in case if two different brands car was traveling in the road, how the communication will happen?
So you mean like how it's like trying to detect the position or like coming of the vehicle, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's my
Yeah,
question. Yeah.
actually, yeah, this is where actually this lidar system, like it helps in the object positioning and also the camera which is involved here. This is how the sensors actually come into the picture. Like it helps you in showing the object movement and also the positioning of the object. So basically they take all the like the data from these sensors, and the car has to learn by itself. So during this iterative process, it learns by itself to identify the position of the cars.
Okay. So the complete communication will be happen through radar, right?
Yeah, the lidar actually in this case.
Radar. Okay. So in that case, the algorithm will be there will be some different algorithms, right? Say for example, Ford algorithm will be different, and other brand algorithm. Hello.
Yeah, but it's not like the Ford algorithm or something, it's about like when I mentioned about this deep learning, right? So there are like several algorithms like neural networks. So we take the basis of the neural network algorithms, and then we like give the data into that and try to make it more iterative. So it's nothing very specific to Ford or very specific to Volkswagen or very specific to Audi. So it's like the common algorithms that's available like neural networks or something, and then we develop on them.
Okay. So that means in simple words, I can say that the algorithm is going to be common for all the brands, right?
Yeah.
Okay. 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 Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Hello, Ms. Deepthi. Hello. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Jagan.
Hi, Jagan. Yeah. But your voice is really feeble. I'm not able to hear you properly.
Hello. Can you hear just now?
Yeah, but it's really feeble. Yeah, but yeah, I'll try to understand the question.
Okay. Do
Yes.
you hear me?
Sorry?
Is it audible?
Yeah, better.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So in my questions, if you go to companies interested to produce in a self-learning, self-driving cars, in future it will reduce your many jobs. It is necessary in future.
No, it's not like it would be reducing the jobs, because like it would be in a different field. That's where like the data science is actually emerging in. Like you will be uh, coming into the field like in order to develop, right? So it's not like how could you say like it would be reducing the job? Maybe if you have some idea, you can give it to me, then I can think in the same direction.
The same reduce the driving posters, taxi, like this.
Yeah, but then we are slowly evolving into each and everything, right? So we will slowly come into the picture. For engineers, it would be like evolving from like developing this sophisticated softwares for the cars. So from this point, it is more like we are evolving into the trends, recent trends. So
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, I have one doubt.
Ma'am, this kind of cars, how many feet will the patients cross the car, the car will stop, ma'am?
Sorry, come again.
மேம் இது யாராச்சும் இது நடந்து போனாங்கன்னா வண்டி போயிட்டு இருக்கும்போது எத்தனாவது ஃபீட்ல வந்து ஸ்டாப் ஆகும் மேம் கார்?
ஆக்சுவலி இப்போதைக்கு எங்ககிட்ட அந்த கரண்ட் அமௌண்ட் ஆஃப் இது இல்லை லைக் எவ்வளோ செகண்ட்ஸ் அப்படிங்கிறது இல்லை பட் த பாசிபிள் வுட் பி லைக் இம்மீடியட் ஆக்ஷன். ஸோ அதுதான் வந்து டார்கெட். பட் அட் த மொமெண்ட் இந்த டேட்டா எங்ககிட்ட இல்லை லைக் எவ்வளோ செகண்ட்ஸ் அப்படிங்கிறது சின்ஸ் இன்னும் அந்த இதுக்குள்ள நாங்கள் போகாதனால.
ஓகே மேம், தேங்க்யூ.
Hi.
Yeah, hi.
Ma'am, you have mentioned like about outliers, right? So what you will
Yes.
do with outliers? Like normally, blindly you will remove it, or you will do some process to include in your data. Normally, what you will use, like what you will do with the outliers?
Actually, on an surface level, I can't say like you have to remove the outliers or you can treat it. So I can't really come into that conclusion. But it really depends on the data. So for certain data, it is really required that you have to consider the outlier, like it might be having some significant effect on it, in some case of like considering some manufacturing industries or something, and we have some data coming from there. So maybe that outlier in that particular field has some influence. So in certain cases, you have to include the outliers, but in certain cases, it would be more like it doesn't provide any significance in your modeling process. So during that cases, you can neglect them. So it actually depends on the data that we are going to have, like we would be dealing with. So we cannot say like I would either remove it or I can treat it. So it really depends on the data or in the application from like where we wanted to use it.
My question is like in terms of outliers. Like when you use this clustering kind of algorithms, like you want to cluster some group of data, like there will be our system need to, based on the data, our system needs to identify yes or no. So from this point of view, we need to divide the two data into two clusters so that you can easily identify whether it's yes or no. So on that case, you can you can you need to clear this outlier, right? So because it will overlap these two clusters and it will be in some other positions.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that is
So yeah, exactly. That's my point. Like when we uh, I'm sorry that I don't have really a ready-made like application that I can explain you clearly with. So, but the point here is like either if it's a classification regression or clustering technique, whatever technique that we follow, it depends on the data that's coming to us and if it is really required for us to treat it or remove it. But as you mentioned, like for example, in clustering, it will of course overlap it, but when you see into the real-time data, might be that there is some significance happening with it, right? So that is all we would observe from the data explorations. So we cannot like simply call it or like say it like, okay, I can exclude the outliers or I can just take them into and start with my modeling process.
okay. Thank you.
Hi.
Ma'am, good morning. My name is Vinu, ma'am.
Hi, Vinu. Yeah.
Can you speak to Tamil?
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
மேம் நீங்கள் சென்சஸ் பற்றி சொல்லியிருந்தீங்க.
Mhm.
அந்த சென்சார்ஸ்க்கு இடையில கன்ஃபியூஷன் வர வாய்ப்பு இருக்கா மேடம்? நம்ம பிகாஸ் நம்ம இந்த சென்சார்ஸ்லாம் காரில் தான் நம்ம யூஸ் பண்ணுறோம். அந்த சென்சாருக்கு இடையில கன்ஃபியூஷன் வரும்போது இதனால இடையில நம்மளோட சிக்னல்ஸில் ஏதாவது பிரச்சனை வர வாய்ப்பு இருக்கா?
கன்ஃபியூஷன்னா நீங்க லைக் எந்த மாதிரி லைக் இன்டரப்ட் சிக்னல்ஸ் இன்டரப்ட் ஆகுமா அப்படின்னு கேக்குறீங்களா?
எஸ் மேம், எஸ் மேம். இடையில ஏகப்பட்ட ஃப்ரீக்வன்சி டிஃப்ரென்ஸ் ஆகும்.
யா ஐ மீன் லைக் அந்த ஃப்ரீக்வன்சி டிஃப்ரென்சஸ் எல்லாமே இருக்கும். பட் இப்போ இருக்கிறதுல கான்ஃபிகர் பண்ணியிருக்கிறது பார்த்தீங்கன்னா அந்த இன்டர்ஃபியரன்ஸ் இருக்காமல் இருக்கிறதுக்கு தான் கான்ஃபிகர் பண்ணியிருப்பாங்க. ஹானஸ்ட்லி எனக்கு அந்த சைடில் அவ்வளோ டீப் நாலேஜ் இல்லை. ஸோ நான் ஃபுல்லாக அந்த இப்போ ஒர்க் பண்ணது எல்லாமே இந்த டேட்டா சயின்ஸ் டெவலப்மெண்ட்டில் தான் இருக்கிறதுனால ஐ கான்ட் லைக் ரியலி கமெண்ட் அபவுட் இட். பட் மேபி ஐ கேன் கெட் பேக் டு யூ ஆன் தட்.
ஓகே மேம், தேங்க்யூ.
மேம் வாய்ஸ் முன்னாடி தமிழ்ல பேசியிருந்தேன்.
சொல்லுங்க வைஸ்.
மேம் இப்போ ஒரு அர்ஜென்ட்ஸ்ல நம்ம போயிட்டு இருக்கிறோம், நீங்க சொல்ற அந்த ஆட்டோமேட்டிக் கார்ல. இப்போ நம்ம இந்த ஸ்பீட்ல இவ்வளவு சீக்கிரம் இந்த இடத்துக்கு போகணும் அப்படிங்கறத வந்துட்டு அதுல செட் பண்ண முடியுங்களா?
இல்ல ஆக்சுவலா ஏன்னா பாத்தீங்க அப்படின்னா இந்த அவசரமா போறதுல இந்த மாதிரி ரொம்ப ஸ்பீடா டிரைவிங் இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு சுச்சுவேஷன்ஸ்ல எல்லாம் தான் மோஸ்ட் ஆக்சிடென்ட்ஸே நடக்குது. ஸோ அட்டானமஸ் வெஹிக்கிள் பிக்சர்ஸ்குள்ள வரும்போது லைக் யூ வில் ஹாவ் அ டிஃபைன் ஸ்பீட், ஒரு ஸ்பீட் லிமிட்ஸ் இருக்கும். அண்ட் இந்த ஜிபிஎஸ் வச்சு லைக் யூ ஹேவ் டு ப்ரீ பிளான் யோர் கம்ப்ளீட் ஐட்னரி. ஸோ அவசரமா போகணும்னு எங்கேயும் போக முடியாது. இட் வில் ஹேவ் இட்ஸ் டிஃபைன் ஸ்பீட். இப்போ ஒரு ஹைவேல வந்து 130 தான் போகணும் அப்படின்னா அந்த 130 கிலோமீட்டர்ஸ்ல தான் வந்து ஆட்டோனமஸ் வெஹிக்கிள் போயிட்டு
அது
இருக்கும்.
வந்துட்டு நீங்க
So அதுக்கு
அல்காரிதம்லயே கொடுத்திருப்பீங்க.
ஆமா, இது வந்து லைக் அல்காரிதம்லயே அது லேர்ன் பண்ண ஆரம்பிக்கும் இந்த ஸ்பீட்ல எப்படி போகணும் அப்படிங்கிறது எல்லாமே.
சோ நம்ம நினைச்சாலும் அவ்வளவு ஸ்பீட்ல போக முடியாது.
இல்ல போக முடியாது.
ஓகே
அதுதான்
மேம்.
ஆக்சுவலா பெஸ்ட் பிகாஸ் கரண்ட் ஸ்டாட்டிஸ்டிக்ஸ் படி லைக் கம்ப்ளீட்டா இது வந்து ஆக்சிடென்ட்ஸ் ரொம்ப ரெடியூஸ் பண்ணும் அப்படிங்கிறது தான் வந்து மெயின் ஐடியாவே இருக்கு.
கேட்கணும்னு நினைச்சேன்.
ஹாய் மேம்.
ஹாய் வினு, சொல்லுங்க.
மேம் இப்போ நம்ம இந்த மாதிரி நம்ம சென்சார்ஸ் வந்து கார்ல யூஸ் பண்ணும்போது 1-2 வெஹிக்கிள் யூஸ் பண்ணும்போது அது வந்து நமக்கு அட்வான்ஸ் டெக்னாலஜியா பல வெஹிக்கிள்ஸ் நம்ம அதை
புரியல, என்ன சொல்றீங்க?
இல்ல மேம், இப்போ வந்து நம்ம ஒரு கார் வந்து நம்ம சென்சார்ஸ் யூஸ் பண்ணி ரிலீஸ் பண்ணோம்னா அதே மாதிரி இன்னும் ஏகப்பட்ட காருங்க வந்து அட்வான்ஸ் டெக்னாலஜி ஓப்பன் ஆகும்லங்க மேடம்.
ஆமா,
அப்போ ஓப்பன் பண்ண அரேஞ்ச் பண்ண வேண்டியது இருக்குல்ல மேடம்?
ஆஃப் கோர்ஸ் இருக்கும் கண்டிப்பா.
ஓகே மேம். அப்போ அதுக்கான அமௌண்ட் வந்து நம்ம எனக்கு அதிகமாக செலவாகிற மாதிரி தான்
சாரி, எனக்கு क्वेश्चन கொஞ்சம் தெளிவா.
சிக்னல்ஸ் அரேஞ்ச்மெண்ட் ஆகும்போது
ஓகே,
பேசிக்காக அதை இப்போ நம்ம அதாவது ஹியூமன் பவர் இல்லாமல் ஆட்டோமேட்டிக் கண்ட்ரோல் மூலயமா சிக்னலையும் இல்லை அதையும் ஹியூமன் கண்ட்ரோல் மூலியமா தான் நம்ம கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ணுற மாதிரி இருக்கும்.
ஸோ நீங்க கேக்குறது வந்து லைக் செவரல் கார்ஸ் போகும்போது இது எப்படி கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ணுவோம் அப்படிங்கறது கேக்குறீங்களா?
இல்லை மேம், அப்படி இல்லை மேம். இப்போ சென்சார்ஸ் மூலியமா ஒரு 10 கார் ரன் ஆயிட்டு இருக்குன்னா அப்போ அந்த அந்த இடத்துக்கு வந்து சிக்னல்ஸ் இருக்குல்ல மேம்.
ஓகே, ஆமா.
சிக்னல்ஸ் வந்து ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்கா கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ற மாதிரி நம்ம வைக்கணுமா மேம், இல்ல ஹியூமன் பவர் மூலமா கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ற மாதிரி இருக்கும்?
சிக்னல்ஸ் பாத்தீங்கன்னா லைக் எனக்கு ஆக்சுவலா क्वेश्चन நான் திரும்ப உங்ககிட்ட ரீஃப்ரேஸ் பண்ணி கேட்டுக்கிறேன்.
இன்னும் சிக்னல்ஸ் ஆல்ரெடி ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்கா தான் கண்ட்ரோல் ஆகுது.
ஒரு 20-30 கார் ஒரே ட்ராக்ல டிராவல் ஆகும்போது அந்த இடத்துக்கு இடையில கன்ஃபியூஷன் வர வாய்ப்பு இருக்கும் அப்படின்னு தான் நான் சிக்னல் மூலியமா சொல்றேன் மேம்.
சிக்னல் இன்டர்ஃபரன்சஸ் இருக்குமான்னு கேக்குறீங்க கரெக்ட்டா? லைக்
ஆமா மேம், ஆமா மேம்.
ஆஃப் கோர்ஸ் அந்த இன்டர்ஃபரன்சஸ் இருக்கும், இருக்கிறது தான். பட் நான் முன்னாடியே சொன்ன மாதிரி எனக்கு இந்த இன்டர்ஃபரன்சஸ் இதுல வந்து லைக் என்னால எதுவுமே கமெண்ட் பண்ண முடியாது பிகாஸ் நான் இப்போதைக்கு அந்த இதுல ஒர்க் பண்ணல. ஸோ எனக்கு அதை பத்தி ஐடியா இல்லை. ஸோ ஹானஸ்டா என்னால் அதை பத்தி இப்போதைக்கு எதுவும் கமெண்ட் பண்ண முடியாது.
Hi Deepthi,
இதை பத்தி யா
this is Yuvraj. If you don't mind, can I answer for this question?
yeah sure Yuvraj, if you can. Yeah,
Sure. போஸ் உங்க கொஸ்டின் வந்து என்னன்னா, இப்போ நிறைய சென்சார்ஸ் இருக்கும், ஒவ்வொரு சென்சார்ஸ் இருந்து சிக்னல்ஸ் வரும். இந்த சிக்னல்ஸ்னால வந்து ஃப்ரண்ட்ல போகக்கூடிய வெஹிக்கிள்ல வந்து மிஸ்கம்யூனிகேஷன் வருமா, எப்படி எக்ஸாக்டா வந்து அது லேர்ன் பண்ணி வெஹிக்கிள் ஸ்டாப் ஆகும்னு கேக்குறீங்க, ரைட்டா? ஹலோ,
அந்த மாதிரி கேட்ட மாதிரி இல்ல. அவர் கேட்டது லைக் he was asking more like இந்த இன்டர்ஃபரன்சஸ் எப்படி கண்ட்ரோல் பண்றீங்க?
தட்ஸ் வாட் சிக்னல், அதாவது சென்சார்ல இருந்து வரக்கூடிய சிக்னல்ஸ் வந்து இன்டர்ஃபரன்ஸ் எப்படி அவங்க கண்ட்ரோல் பண்றாங்கன்னு கேக்குறாங்க, ரைட்டா?
ஆமா,
எஸ் சார்.
Okay. Boss, normally what we'll do is we'll have a data loggers in vehicle வந்து ஒரு DAC system இருக்கும், ஓகேங்களா? So நீங்க சொன்ன மாதிரி we have n number of sensors in the vehicle. So எல்லா சிக்னல்ஸையும் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வந்து DAC சிஸ்டத்துக்கு கொண்டு வந்து so we will configure in it. அதோட calibrate பண்றது, அதோட ரேஞ்ச் என்ன, அந்த சிக்னல்ஸ் எப்படி வருது எல்லாத்தையுமே we will organize in the DAC system. அந்த DAC சிஸ்டத்துல ஆர்கனைஸ் பண்ணதுக்கு அப்புறம் ஃபைனலா வரக்கூடிய அவுட்புட்டை வச்சுதான் வெஹிக்கிள் டு வெஹிக்கிள் கம்யூனிகேட் பண்ணும், சரிங்களா? பட் இதுல ஒரு பெரிய சேலஞ்ச் என்னன்னு கேட்டீங்கன்னா, இப்போ ஹலோ ஒரு சேலஞ்ச் என்னன்னு கேட்டீங்கன்னா, இப்போ இப்போ ஒரு வெஹிக்கிள் ஃபோர்ட் கார்னு எடுத்துட்டீங்கன்னா அதுல யூஸ் பண்ணக்கூடிய சப் காம்போனன்ட்ஸ் எல்லாம் கம்ஸ் ஃப்ரம் டிஃப்ரெண்ட் சப்ளையர்ஸ். ஓகேங்களா? ஸ்டேரிங் ஒருத்தர் கிட்ட இருந்து வரும், பிரேக்கிங் ஒருத்தர் கிட்ட இருந்து வரும், இந்த மாதிரி டிஃப்ரெண்ட் சப்ளையர்ஸ் கிட்ட இருந்து வரும். ஸோ ஈச் அண்ட் எவ்ரி சப்ளையர்ஸ் ஹேவ் அ டிஃப்ரெண்ட் கான்ஃபிகரேஷன், டிஃப்ரெண்ட் டெக்னாலஜி. ஓகேங்களா? ஸோ இப்போ 2 டிஃப்ரெண்ட் பிராண்ட் கார் போகுதுன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். இந்த பிராண்ட்ல வந்து ஒரு சப்ளையர் கிட்ட இருந்து வாங்கியிருப்பாங்க. ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் எக்ஸ்ன்னு வச்சுப்போம். இன்னொரு பிராண்ட் கார் வந்து ஒய்ங்கிற சப்ளையர் கிட்ட இருந்து வாங்கியிருப்பாங்க. ஸோ தேர் டெக்னாலஜி வில் பி டிஃப்ரெண்ட். ஸோ இந்த இடத்துல வந்து இவங்க 2 பேரும் எப்படி கம்யூனிகேட் பண்ணிக்கிறாங்க அப்படிங்கறது தான் பிக் சேலஞ்ச்.
ஆமா சார்.
இது வந்து ஆக்சுவலி இது இப்போ ஐ திங்க் இட்ஸ் இன் டெவலப்மெண்ட் ஸ்டேஜ். ஸோ ஸ்டில் 100% டெவலப் ஆகல. ஸோ தீஸ் ஆர் த திங்ஸ் ஐ திங்க் டீம்ஸ் ஆர் கெட்டிங் working on it.
Okay sir.
Okay, like as you
Hi
said,
sir, I am Sligan.
2 different cars are moving. Assume that if the same like same brand car is moving, like it is using the same technology. At that time, like if the 2 cars using the same radar technologies or lidar technologies, like whether these 2 lidar signals like it will interfere. That is what his question, I think so. Can you answer this?
Was it a question? I couldn't hear you properly. Your
Hello?
voice was really feeble. Hello?
Like assume that there is 2 cars which is of using the same same brand from same OEM, like they are using same lidar and radar technologies. If the 2 cars is passing in the same road, will those 2 signals it will interfere, because like they will use the same frequency to detect the person or detect the object. So at that time, this is this 2 lidar the radiation it will interfere.
So you meant like, so the 2 cars that are with the same sensors and technologies that is going in the same road, will there be any interference? Like would it cause some...
Because like previously your answer like 2 different brands is going, like then there will be separate different OEM, so there will be some frequency they may use. I think so. Now like assume the same brand both will use the same technology. So both will use the same lidar to find some object. LiDAR, like as you said, it is entirely based on how much light is reflected from the object. So at the same case, like there will be 2 different castings, then there will be interference, right? So because 2 LiDAR sensor, it is like emitting the same light towards an object. So what will happen if the 2 cars are having the same technologies?
Boss, this is Yuvraj.
Yeah.
Boss, உங்க கொஸ்டினுக்கு வந்து ஆக்சுவலி இட்ஸ் வெரி ஈஸி. இப்போ ரெண்டுமே ஒரே பிராண்ட்ஸா இருந்துச்சு இல்ல ஒரே சப்ளையரா இருந்தாங்கன்னா கம்யூனிகேஷன் வில் பி வெரி வெரி ஈஸி, பிகாஸ் தே ஹேவ் n நம்பர் ஆஃப் டேட்டாஸ் கலெக்டட் பிஃபோர். ஸோ அது வந்து எல்லாமே அவங்க டேட்டா பேஸ்ல இருக்கும். ஸோ கம்யூனிகேஷன் ஃபார் ஷியூர் இட் வில் பி வெரி ஈஸி.
Sorry to interfere. Like my question is not about outer vehicle communication. I'm saying about in the same vehicle itself there will be an interference. Right? Because like one vehicle it is going some light to detect some object. The same case, the nearby vehicle also going the same light to detect something. So those 2 light radiation it will interfere, right? Because like what I mean is like I consider 2 vehicle A and B. Vehicle B is throwing some light. That light it will be reflected, and maybe light A, the lidar system in A can gather those light information and we may falsely identify some other objects. Right? That is what I'm trying to say.
இல்ல உங்க கொஸ்டின் ரொம்ப சிம்பிளா வந்து how the vehicles are communicating each other ன்னு கேக்குறீங்க, ரைட்டா?
Not each
vehicle
other.
speed வச்சு
Not each other. So என்ன கொஸ்டின்னா ரெண்டு வெஹிக்கிள்ல இருந்து லிடார் வந்து அசியூம் 2 வெஹிக்கிள் வந்து ஒரு சிக்னல்ல நின்று வெஹிக்கிள் ஏ வந்து ஒரு லைட் எமிட் பண்ணிட்டு டிடெக்ட் ஆகுது. அதே மாதிரி வெஹிக்கிள் பியும் லைட் எமிட் பண்ணி ஆப்ஜெக்ட் டிடெக்ட் பண்ண இந்த 2 லைட்டும் இன்டர்ஃபியர் ஆகி மிஸ் ஐடென்டிஃபிகேஷன் ஆகிறதுக்கு சான்ஸ் இருக்கா? வெஹிக்கிள் ஏ வந்து வெஹிக்கிள் பியோட எமிட் ஆகிற ரேடியேஷனை வச்சு மிஸ் ஐடென்டிஃபிகேஷன் பண்ண சான்ஸ் இருக்கு.
இதுக்கு எக்ஸாக்டா ஐ திங்க் அவர் ரிசர்ச் அண்ட் டெவலப்மெண்ட் பீப்புள் ஹேஸ் டு ஆன்சர் உங்க கொஸ்டினுக்கு.
ஓகே.
Deepthi,
Hello.
shall we wind up? Shall we wind up?
Yes.
Sir, hello. Hello.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. This is Niveda from Department of E&I, ma'am. Hello.
Yeah, Niveta.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Ma'am, this is just a general question, ma'am. As a junior, I just want to get some insights from you, ma'am. Like, you are from the instrumentation background and now you are into automation and somewhere around data science. So how did this all happen, and can you give us how your learnings in instrumentation and engineering were applied in your current field, ma'am? It is just like a motivation or something on a short note.
Okay, so actually, like I think in and I also like you would have come across this neural networks. I think
Yes.
there is a it's in your curriculum, right? And also about the
Yes.
sensors,
Same.
right? So this is actually something that I picked it up from, and I always like had some motivation to do automation for my
Okay.
masters. I always like thought about like how it would be in the real world, like when everything is automated. So I was actually curious into it.
Yes.
So when I did my masters, it was like data science was actually a part of my curriculum as well. So I picked this subject because it's really interesting. It comes up like you have like a lot of questions in your mind and certain answers are scattered and you have to just put them all together. So it was like really an interesting subject. So I started to like developing my knowledge in this field, and luckily I got my internship and thesis in the same field. So for my thesis I basically designed a model for claim predictions, which is more similar to fraud detection. So basically a prediction model to detect the claims. So I did this model for Continental AG. It's like a automotive supplier. And yeah, from there, then my career started into Ford, like to do this development and using this data science techniques. So it's like 1.5 years right now that I'm into this field, trying to learn. And yeah, that's how I got like inspired going from electronics and instrumentation to data science. So it's all like somehow interconnected, now even now you have like curriculums in neural networks and also learning about sensors. And this is where like eventually you get traveled.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Deepthi?
Yeah, ma'am, I have one final doubt. I'm Sleegan.
Yeah, hi Sligan. Yeah, tell me.
Ma'am, சென்சார்ஸ்ல ஏதோ டிஃபால்ட் ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா நம்ம
Yeah.
சர்வீஸ்க்கு எடுத்துட்டு போறதுக்கு மேனுவலா இது காரை ரன் பண்ண முடியுமா மேம்?
முடியும். Like அந்த ஆப்ஷன் இருக்கும். Like you can switch between pilot driving and manual driving.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Deepthi, shall we
Yes, sir.
close?
Yeah, sir.
Shall we wind up? Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you, participants. And I should like to thank Ms. Deepthi Rajkumar for giving a nice talk on data science and automation. You have covered a lot of interesting topics like data science, basic terminology, and the process involved in autonomous vehicles also. Thank you, Deepthi. Also, I thank the faculty members of the Department of Electronics and Instrumentation Engineering for organizing this seminar a grand success. And my special thanks to Mr. S. Kausik, Assistant Professor of the department, for coordinating the entire process. Thank you, Kausik. And I thank all the participants who are involved in this webinar series. We will meet you once again in the next week, 2 p.m. with some other resource person. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.